All right, we're live.
All right, welcome everyone. Oh my goodness, it's here again, our East Valley Village. We're gathering together today to support one another, and so we're talking today about mindfulness, and our theme is harmony for the holidays. So, how can we de-stress? How can we connect? How can we take that time for ourselves? How can we be with situations that might be kind of challenging, or awkward conversations with family members we don't see very often, or all of the events that we need to get to, or all the events that our kids need to get to, like we've been talking about today, how all of our kids had pajama day today, and most of us found out a day ago or something like that, or really important poetry readings that our kids are doing that we just found out about. So yeah, it can be a challenging time of year, and so we're talking about that, and we're so happy to have with us today Lanita England. And so I'm just going to read some information about her. Lanita is a certified mindfulness coach, trauma-informed mindfulness group facilitator, and is the lead teacher of the Gilbert Yoga 85-hour Prenatal Yoga Teacher Training program. She's ordained as a Reiki master and has been serving the community as a birth doula for over 10 years. She's taught professional mindfulness classes for young children and teens within the school system, and facilitates private and group mindfulness coaching and yoga classes to people of all ages. And so thank you so much, Lanita, for being here with us today to give us some tips and some tricks, and to lead us in a process and just help us to find that harmony during this oftentimes challenging time of year. So welcome, Lanita.
Thank you so much, Jen. That was an amazing introduction. um, yeah, so I wear many hats. I have many passions, and sometimes it's hard to rein all of those in. But mindfulness, yoga, and birth, health, and education and support has become my main focus of what I do, and I'm super honored and grateful to be able to do it. So I wanted to, one, welcome everybody in, whether you're watching live or whether you're here in the personal Zoom room with us. And to start our time together with just a centering and a little bit of a mindfulness practice. So if that's okay, we'll go ahead and get ready to come into this practice, making sure that you're always keeping yourself safe as we walk through different steps. The invitation is to close eyes, but if that's not comfortable, or if you've got other things going on in the environment around you, making sure that you are accommodating your needs in doing so. So maybe that's not closing your eyes, and maybe it's just looking down toward your hands, or maybe it's just still being aware of what's happening around you, but then allowing the sense of hearing to become a little bit more present. So for myself personally, I'm sitting up. If you're at home and you feel the need, the desire to lay down, you can also do that. And we're just going to start by being aware of our physical bodies. So if you're laying down, if you're sitting up, whatever position you're in or whatever space that you're in, just noticing the parts of your body that are connected to either a chair or the floor or your bed or a couch. And just taking a moment to kind of scan your body from the top of your head down toward your toes. And as you move your awareness down from the top of your head, down toward your feet, we're just acknowledging, observing, becoming aware. You might notice spaces in the body that are holding tension. You might notice areas of the body that feel relaxed. And no matter where your attention guides you or what you may notice, just allowing yourself to be an observer of that. We aren't trying to change it. We are allowing it to be what it is in this moment. If it feels safe to do so, as you start to work down the body, you have that ability, that offering to even move the body a little bit. Maybe you're rotating the head or opening and closing the jaw or squeezing the shoulders, or maybe giving yourself a little bit of a massage in some areas. Just again, being aware that we are here, that we're present, we're in our physical bodies. And if you're still scanning the body, continue to do so, but now start to pay attention to breathing. And we are breathing at all moments, mostly. We do have a tendency to hold our breath from time to time. So as you start to pay attention to your breath, we're just noticing at this moment the sensation of breathing in and breathing out. We might notice this in our nostrils. We might notice this sensation in the throat, in the chest, in the abdomen. We know that we're breathing in and we know that we're breathing out. And now taking this observation just a little bit further, and start to pay attention to the rhythm of our breath and allowing inhales and exhales to become a little longer and a little more full. Breathing in maybe to a count of 4 or 6, and then allowing your exhale to be the same count. We may choose to count silently in our heads or to use our fingertips for our count. There may be moments where it feels like taking that deeper breath is a little difficult. You might feel a little constriction in the chest. And again, just observing without trying to change anything about the experience. Just being aware. You are in your physical body and you are aware of your breath. And now taking this observation just a little bit further. Because we are humans, we think. Our thoughts have served a purpose. And now we're going to just observe them coming in and out. We're going to give thought an anchor word of thinking. So every time we're breathing and a thought comes in, just simply acknowledge the thought by saying to yourself, thinking. And then move your awareness back to your breath. You may choose to continue with your count, or you can also use an anchor word for breathing that may feel more simple, such as breathe in, breathe out, inhale, exhale, or rise and fall. You're in a physical body, you're here, you're present. You're connected and anchored to your breath. And you are the observer of thought. Because thoughts are often also accompanied by sensation or feelings, we're remaining the observer in all of these different variations and experiences. Should you start to feel a sensation, maybe that's hot or cold, itchy, heavy, light, simply say to yourself, sensation. Move your awareness back to breathing. The same with feeling. Should a feeling come in, offer it the anchor word of feeling. And gently move your awareness back to breathing. Breathe in, breathe out. Inhale, exhale, rise, fall. You are in your physical body. You are here in your present. You are connected to your breath. Breathing in, you know that you're breathing in. And breathing out, you know that you're breathing out. You are the observer of thought, sensation, and feelings. And taking just a couple more moments here, a couple more breaths in this awareness and observation and connection. As we start to bring our awareness back into this space in connection with each other. Taking your time to do so, coming back into the space that you're in. If your eyes are closed, maybe allowing time for them to open and taking a moment to look around the room that you're in. Maybe stretching as if waking up from a deep sleep. Opening and closing your jaw, your hands. And bringing ourselves back to here. Well, thank you for journeying along with me. This is a technique that I use with clients of all ages and all different environments, of giving ourselves about a 10-minute or so break, a way to regulate our nervous systems, to remind ourselves of being in this physical container. Sometimes when we're really busy, we tend to forget that there's a body that's serving us, and that we're utilizing it at all times throughout our day. We can often get very caught up in the mind, what the mind is thinking, experiencing, sensation, feeling, and sometimes it feels like that's kind of like a pinball machine. That's the example I love to use as a visual. You know, you hit the metal ball and it bounces off all the bumpers and it's doing its thing, right? So sensation and feeling and thinking, they can all be that pinball machine experience of bouncing off of each other and redirecting in all of these different ways that can feel chaotic. The holidays, especially, as Jen said, we're kind of focusing on, you know, how do we regulate our nervous systems going into this busy time of year? And for many, after what we've experienced over the last 2 years of these different dynamics with COVID and working from home and not being around as many people, possibly, the dynamics of moving into the holiday season can be really stressful, especially when we think about the fact that we may be around people that we haven't been around for a long period of time, and those dynamics and what that brings. And I think that most of us experience some holiday anxiety normally, but now we have, you know, some added layers to that. So a couple of things that I wanted to bring forth and offer into this space are techniques and tools that I utilize myself, as well as provide as options for my clients when I'm working with them to create ease and balance. And one of that is the technique that we just did, walking through, being aware of being in a physical body, aware of how we're breathing, awareness of thought, sensation, and feeling, and then allowing ourselves that ability to not get caught in the stories behind thought and sensation and feeling, just really bringing it back into all I'm doing in this moment is breathing. The mindfulness practice is exactly that, paying attention. We're paying attention to what's happening right now in order to create space so that we can regulate our systems and then choose how we're going to respond. Choosing meaning we are in control versus reaction and just doing something based off of an experience. So that technique of redirect, as far as paying attention to just breathing, is one of those tools. Another tool that I love, it's one of my absolute personal favorites, is self-care timers. I have everyone that I work with including my friends and my family, and they're on my phone as well. But we set 3 different alarms throughout a day. And when that alarm goes off, we are taking a moment to sincerely ask ourselves, what do I need right now? And it's not a, we're not going to think about it for 5 minutes, be like, what do I actually need? Well, I need this and this and this and this. It's literally in that moment. What is the instant response? What does it say? What does my body say? My being say I need right now? It can be as simple as I need a drink of water because I've been working all day and I haven't drank any water. It can be I've been going, and I need to go to the restroom. As a teacher, former teacher in a school, that was a dynamic that I experienced all day long. And especially with, young ones in a house, that can be something that you are also still experiencing. We're in mommy mode and we feel like we need to constantly give and take care of, and we kind of become second. Or third or fourth, depending on the dynamics of our houses. So the self-care timers, they're so wonderful because they're so accessible, right? We all have phones. You set a timer 3 different times a day. Sure, could you do more? Absolutely. But the 3 is like that minimum amount that I encourage. And I set myself up for success. And I think that that's a huge part of being mindful, is we have a tendency to look at everything from a bigger perspective. I want to take it all on and it all needs to be done right now. And this is really big. Like, this can feel like a huge monster, where if we're breaking it down to what's happening right now in this moment, this is much more tangible and accessible. So I set myself up. These timers go off at 7 a.m. I'm not ever with a client at 7 a.m. They go off at 12 p.m. because that is my scheduled time that I'm going to eat or do something along those lines or have a break. And then I set it for 8 p.m. because I don't have clients that late at night. I 100% know that at those 3 times, it's accessible for me to pause and actually follow through with whatever it is that I need. And again, that could be a drink of water. It could be I haven't eaten yet today. It could be I need to actually stand up and get out of my chair because I work a lot on Zoom. That I need to get up. I need to move my body, or I need to step outside and actually breathe real air instead of the recirculating air that's happening within my home. And doing your best to follow through. It doesn't have to be like, I need to take a 30-minute nap. We may not have time for a 30-minute nap, but I can take a second to do some tapping or some massage or just stretch. So that's one technique that I offer that I think is just so valuable and is easily accessible for everybody. We walked a little bit through the breathing technique and using that even breath ratio of 4-6. Some are very familiar with box breathing. So it's, you're breathing, say, inhaling to a count of 4, holding for a count of 4, exhaling to a count of 4, holding for a count of 4. With the holds, though, especially if we have any experience with trauma that could rise, the holds can feel like a lot. So I actually encourage more of that rectangular breathing. So we're doing like a 4 count in, hold for 2, 4 count out, hold for 2. It seems to be a little bit more accessible and not as triggering or potentially triggering. So that's another technique. Often we experience some insomnia or sleeplessness during this time of potential stress and worry and unknown as far as what we could be experiencing going into the holidays and dynamics with other people. And breathing is always a great way to regulate for sleep as well. There's, if you're familiar at all in the yoga term, there's, it's called Nadi Shodhana, or alternate nostril breathing. And doing this technique can regulate the right side of your body and brain with the left side. So we're working in tandem and we're balancing between the two so that they're communicating equally. This is a great way in preparation for sleep. It also helps clear sinuses. So that's also a really wonderful technique. Coloring, as somebody had mentioned earlier when we were talking about, so mindful coloring or doing an arts and crafts or a project, something that is with your hands. And this is something my daughter, who's now 24, she, in her like 6-year-old self, in a very high stress environment where she had come to work with me, and I was the operations manager for a home building company. We had gone to run an errand and she said, "Mom, you know, we need to buy Play-Doh." And I was like, "Play-Doh? What are we doing with Play-Doh?" And she was like, "We need it because everybody, you can't be mad, you can't be stressed out if you have Play-Doh. I mean, come on." Right? So I buy these little tiny tubs, the little tiny travel size Play-Dohs, and they feel good. They smell good. They bring me back to like my younger childhood years. And I understand not everybody likes the smell of Play-Doh. You can also make your own Play-Doh very easily. But I will take Play-Doh and roll it around in my hands and knead it and just do what I need to. And I can do this at any time too. I carry them in my purse. They're just a great, easy little thing. Again, I'm partial. I know maybe some of you are like, "Ooh, Play-Doh's kind of toxic and gross," but it really stimulates my very younger self and brings a lot of happiness. But you can make your own Play-Doh that has, you know, essential oils or something like that in it as well. Let's see, another technique that's really accessible and easy to do, tennis balls, or these little tiny bouncy balls. I have one here somewhere. You guys know what those little rubber balls that you used to get in the machines.
Still get them? Yeah.
Yes, can you? I don't even have any idea, but they're little tiny. These are great for fascia release in our hands. I love them to use for hands and stimulating circulation. You can work with them for carpal tunnel as well. And then tennis balls are great for acupressure. And we hold a lot of tension in our shoulders. I carry my tennis balls with me everywhere. I have one that's in, two that are in a sock tied to work on both sides of my back if I'm laying down or on the wall. And I have one that I use for like hips and thighs and knees and legs and all kinds of other places. So tennis balls are really easily accessible, great for acupressure points and releasing tension. And then I sort of mentioned, as we were coming out of that guided meditation, tapping. So tapping is a really great way to create balance and to bring yourself back into your body and what's happening right now. It's a technique that is used often for panic or anxiety attacks. Heightened states of that stress can really alter your experience and your ability to function. So we notice we can do tapping. We usually start forehead, and then we do chin, and then we do chest. You can also use the affirmation, "I am in my body," or "I am safe in my body." We can expand this tapping to a thymus thump. So right here along the breastbone. I like to do it along my cheeks and my jaw as well, because I carry a lot of tension in my jaw and have TMJ from in my younger years gripping or clenching my jaw. So tapping can be a really great way to bring us back online. And then, as Jen had mentioned, going into dynamics, whether it's with our family or other people, dynamics within the household, when we're experiencing heightened states of being and stress, then we often tend to react versus respond. With mindfulness, again, paying attention to what's happening in this moment, the greatest tool that you have is creating space so that we can regulate ourselves and then decide how we're going to choose to show up, what we need to do for healthy boundaries to keep ourselves safe, and then as well as communication with others and self. That includes our own self-talk. When we create space, we have more opportunity for that freedom to do so, creating space to choose a response instead of reaction. So for me personally, when working with others, that's like the very main base part of establishing a mindfulness practice, is to learn how to breathe, so that no matter what it is that we're starting to experience, we have that opportunity to reel it back in, create some space, decide how I want to move forward, so that we're not getting caught in that dynamic of like my mouth went faster than I wanted it to, and now, oh my gosh, I don't really want to be that way or show up that way or say that or react, but there it went. It happened. So those are some things that are really accessible and don't cost anything. They're simple tools that can make a huge difference in our experiences on daily life, but as well going into holidays and different dynamics with family, friends, social gatherings, etc.
Wow, that's amazing, Lanita. This is just a wealth of resources that you've shared. And I just want to remind everyone that this is being recorded and it's on Facebook Live right now, but it's going to stay there. So you can come back to watch this over and over and over again. If you're like, what was that technique Lanita was talking about? You can come back to watch this, or if you're watching it and the kids are being crazy or something, come back and you can watch this again, write the things down, put those reminders in your phone. That's something you can do right now. You probably have that minute or two, to just quickly put a reminder in your phone, like Lanita said, about, take a deep breath, or what do I need right now? Just asking yourself that question. So those are just like such valuable gems, Lanita. Thank you so much for sharing all of those. I want to open it up for anybody on Zoom right now. If you have a question for Lanita that you're okay with having everyone else have the benefit of hearing that question, probably if you have a question, somebody else has that question too. Now's a great time to ask that, and then we can kind of pick Lanita's brain a little bit right now. So, and you can either type it in the chat or you can just unmute yourself. We're a small group today, so you can unmute yourself and ask that question. And if not, I have a ton of questions, but I'd love to hear what's on your hearts, what's on your minds from this conversation.
I have a comment. I guess it's not a question, but when you were talking about setting these timers about what do you need right now, first off, it's brilliant. I love it. It is something that I feel like, as a mother, I'm not always in touch with what I need. Right? Like I may not be asking myself what I need very often. And if I don't, then usually it comes roaring out of me at another time. So I really love that. The other thing that kind of occurred to me when you were saying that is how useful that would be for children too, right? Like I'm just thinking of, you know, kids in school even, and how useful it would be for them to take a moment and be like, what do I need right now? Okay, you can go do that, right? Like, and teaching them that that was like an okay practice, because it's one thing for us to do it as an adult, but if you are regularly checking in with yourself to be like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. Oh, I need a drink of water, right? It doesn't become as much of an emergency. I really love that. I think it's, yeah, I put it into my phone already.
Nice, Jenny. Yeah, and you're right. When I taught middle school, I taught yoga and mindfulness in a middle school for 6 years. And I have an iWatch, and it would go off and remind me to breathe. So every single time it went off, no matter what I was doing or teaching, I would immediately pause and be like, okay, we're all going to take a breath. And we would all breathe together for a minute. And then I would ask them, okay, what do you need right now? And often it was like, Miss, I need to go to the bathroom, or Miss, like, can I go get a drink of water? Yes, you can, like, do that and come back and let's continue. So yeah, it works amazing for everybody. Such a great tool.
Yeah. And I love the bouncy ball and the Play-Doh. I'll tell you, I switched purses recently and I found 2 bouncy balls in my purse. And on several occasions, I have found Play-Doh in my purse, whether it was in a container or not. But those are definitely things that, as a mother of boys, I have in my purse often. The other thing that are in my purse really often is rocks. So, you know, they'll like pick up a rock, and so there are some that I keep in my car that I like actually will like hold at stoplights. And it's not, I don't think I'm intentionally being mindful. I'll just be like, oh, look, there's that rock he got me. Oh, I really love that. And then, you know, sit and hold it. So it's kind of interesting that you brought that up, because I'm fairly confident most of the time there is something in my purse that I could roll around in my hand and, you know, start to think about that. Yeah, I really love that one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very accessible.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that you brought in those things that we just naturally encounter through parenting. You know, those things that we just have around us. You know, that we can use to just bring awareness into our body. And like you said, the breath, you know, that's something that we have no matter where we are, who we're with, what we're doing. We have the ability to take in those slow, deep breaths and to bring that awareness to our breath. And something that I found was really interesting when I started doing mindfulness was how much more time I had in the day all of a sudden. Like, you know, that 10, 15 minutes that we spent together at the beginning of the session today, it's like just doing that, it for me anyway, when I was doing it even today, I'm like, ugh, you know, like there's just this sense of like, this is taking a long time, or, you know, there's like this little, you know, part of me that wants to like go, go, go still, even with that. But it's like the more that you do that, the more you realize that you actually have a lot more moments in your day to do that. And it's safe and it's available, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And giving yourself permission to do it. So often our nervous systems have regulated to a heightened state of being where the go, go, go is what is normal, which really isn't normal for anybody. But we've regulated to that space that feels normal. So slowing down feels uncomfortable. And we have that, you know, in the beginning, especially when we're establishing a mindfulness practice or a meditation practice, often that's the case. That's what I hear a lot is like, it's so difficult for me to sit still for 5 minutes. What do you know, this is impossible. I'm never going to get there. And it's because our nervous systems are like, no, the state of normal is being at a level 12 all the time, versus the state of normal should be this beautiful ebb and flow of maybe we're at, you know, an 8 and maybe we're at a 4, and, you know, we're riding these little waves, not huge peaks and huge canyons, right? We don't want to be up here and down here in these dramatic changes. It's more of this like, okay, let's ride whatever the fluctuation is. But yeah, our nervous systems are brilliant, but they also know only what we've adapted to.
Yeah, I know as far as, if someone's like, okay, I'm into mindfulness, I know that I want to incorporate this in somehow, I want to create that harmony, that balance for myself. Like, what would you recommend? Like, do you recommend just doing a few of these things, maybe just starting off small? Like, how would you recommend that someone start to really, like, in their real life, incorporate these things in?
Always starting small is going to be more accessible than starting big. Like I said, when we go into the world on a daily basis, often we're looking at it from this big, huge viewpoint of, oh my gosh, I have a million things that have to be accomplished today. And this is really, really big, right? This feels like a lot to take on. Where if we're breaking things down into small portions, this is what I'm doing right now in this moment, then we are going to have a greater chance for success. And it's tangible, it's easier to accommodate that. So the mindfulness practice is the same way. We're breaking it down into small increments. I usually, with my clients, I'm always like, we're going to establish a 5-minute practice, and it can be broken down to like 5 minutes all at once, or it could be 1 minute here and 2 minutes here, or maybe it's 5 times of 1 minute, but you're setting yourself up for success. When we are successful, then we are more apt to continue. When we go into it and we're like, oh my gosh, 5 minutes seems like too hard, too much, then we're going to walk away from it with that, like, okay, I can't do it. My mind's too busy. This is just torture. I'm not going to do this. Where if we can be successful at even a minute, we're going to be more apt to do it again later in the day.
I love that. Thank you for that. Yeah, that feels really accessible. Like you said, like the timers, for instance, where it is just a minute or two here and there. And truly, I mean, I know that you worked with kids of all ages. And if we as parents are modeling this for our children, it kind of like normalizes that for them, right? It might be a little bit easier for them. Like if we're normalizing, let's check. I think like when kids are potty training, we're like, do you need to use the restroom? Like we're asking them that, like check in with your body.
Yeah,
We're modeling that for them, that perhaps that might be easier for them. They wouldn't have the same challenges necessarily that we have in incorporating all this in.
absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a story about that I know I probably shared with you, Jen, but I don't know if I've shared it with anyone else. And since you said it, I have to bring it up because it's one of my proud mama moments. But several years ago, I was dealing with a lot. And I felt like I was often just, not in a good place. And I started doing guided meditations to handle it, because I wasn't like really great at doing mindfulness, but I could listen to David G's voice. His voice was fine. I could listen to him and I could go there and I would lie down and do him that way. And my son, my oldest, would want me to put him to bed at night. And sometimes I was just so tired, right? And I would be like, okay, well, we're going to listen to this meditation. This is how I'm going to like process and manage to do this thing. And so I would do it and I'd be like, sorry, I'm weird. And he'd be like, okay, whatever, mom. Right. And then one day he came from school and he's like, so my friend at the time, my best friend, he, on the playground was like, I don't want to play with you anymore. I'm not interested in playing with you ever again. Right. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did you do, Josh? That's so terrible. And, I'm like ready to like call up his mom and be like, do you know what your child did? Right. Like, and Josh is like, well, mom, I was pretty mad, but then I like went under a tree and meditated. And he's like in 5th grade. And I was like, wow. Like that is not what my reaction would have been. And yet that's what he did. Like he took that like, oh, wow, I'm watching my mom deal with hard stuff and she went and meditated. I guess I can do that too, in the moment. And I was floored. And so, I was showing my son like all these awful things and gosh, why can't she just get it together, when I was actually showing him how to regulate himself. So that's my proud mama moment, but also, to just take from that like, even when we feel like we're doing it because we just don't you know, we don't have a lot of energy and we're trying to make ourselves, you know, get through the day. They get it, right? They see it and they use it when they have their own moments. So yeah.
Yeah. And Jenny, you just gave them the perfect real life example that life is messy and that it's okay to be messy.
Mhm.
And we can still show up and navigate in the messiness. You know, like one of my teachers, one of my coaches had said to me at one point, you know, how different would things be if as a small child, your parents would have sat you down and said, life is going to be hard, but it's going to be okay. It would have just been such a different perspective than going, you know, the first time that I was met with something that was really difficult, I would have had a much different viewpoint than being like, why is this happening? This isn't supposed to be like this. Everybody's supposed to be happy all the time. Or, you know, why am I having this experience? And so, you know, when we show up authentically, like we're humans, we're giving our children permission to do so as well. Yes, it's messy. Yes, it's hard. And yes, it doesn't always look pretty, but I can go meditate underneath a tree or I can do, you know, this to help regulate my system. And yeah, it's just such a valuable tool. We aren't meant to be perfect. The perfection is being messy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you, Jenny, for sharing your real life experience with that. That just, you know, got me thinking about things that I want to do with my daughter. That was really beautiful. Well, Lanita, we have a few more minutes for our session today here. And so I would love to have people have the information for how to, if they want to ask you more questions. We have people that are watching on Facebook Live and people who will be watching the recording of this on Facebook. So, how can they get in touch with you? How can they connect with you? How can they ask you more questions? How can they hook up with you?
So the absolute best way, I am on Facebook. My personal account, which is Lanita England, you can always DM me there. But on Instagram, my business account is Ganesh Yoga Girl Wellness. So it's at Ganesh Yoga Girl Wellness. And there is a link in my bio to be able to schedule a consultation with me. You can also DM me through there, and I can answer any questions or anything like that. So you can find me on Facebook, and you can always send messages to me on my personal account, which is Lanita England. But on Instagram, it's at Ganesh Yoga Girl Wellness. And again, the link in the bio is to set up a consultation with me. And then you can also DM me there and send me any questions or anything that you would like. I would be happy to answer that way as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Rachel had said in the chat, yes, I totally agree, Lanita, when you were talking about being human and allowing your children to witness you being human and dealing with the messiness of life and just that's reality of life. And so I want to share with everyone. So we're going to have a few more minutes. We're going to hop off of Facebook Live in just a moment, but I want to share with everybody who's on live or on the recording how they can continue to connect with Fourth Trimester Arizona. So we have our Tucson Village Gathering coming up on December 22nd. It's going to be an in-person goodie bag giveaway at a local park in Tucson, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. We also have all of our normal village gatherings right now are still online at this point. So we have the first Wednesday is our West Valley Village Gathering, second Wednesday of the month, our Central Valley Village Gathering, and then for where we're at right now, this village gathering, we are the East Valley Village Gathering every third Thursday from 10 to 11:30. Our next one is going to be on Thursday, January 20th, and it's going to be a focus on healthy and happy new year. We're going to have naturopathic physician Christina Greengard, who's going to be teaching us about healthy cooking, healthy living, just all things health as we begin this new year on the right foot. And then if you have a gathering topic in mind, I would love to hear that. We would love to hear that. A lot of the ideas that we have come from the viewers and the people who are connected in our larger communities for fourth trimester. So you can get our newsletters. We have a YouTube channel. We're on Instagram, fourth trimester, number 4, TH trimester AZ. We have an events calendar, our website, fourthtrimesteraz.org. You can email us. So please connect with us. Let us know what you want to explore. We're really open to that. Okay, so I think that's it as far as our live, and I think we're going to move on to the private space again through our Zoom. Everyone who's watching this live or the recording, know that you are welcome in our Zoom. That's not exclusive. You can come to that. Anyone's welcome to it. So keep a lookout for the events that you're seeing through Facebook and through the newsletter. And you can join in on any of our Zoom calls and ask these questions and have an introduction that we do at the beginning, and really that village feeling, and actually connect directly with the speakers, ask questions, all that kind of stuff. So, okay, we'll transition out of that. Bye everyone on Facebook.